Hello, Miles and MarthaLoss, your local real estate experts. So the home inspection's done, the inspection period has passed, everything's fine. We're moving on with the sale of the property. The next step is the appraisal if you're using financing. And the appraisal would be ordered by the lender. It goes to a third-party vendor. In most cases, according to new law that passed back when we had issues with fraud, the lender can't directly contact and order the appraisal because they don't want them influencing the value. So the order is placed when the buyer pays for the appraisal and they sign certain disclosures. Boom, the appraisal's ordered. Then the appraiser is going to contact a contact person to gain access into the property. Their scheduled appointment to go in, to do a physical inspection. Now, this isn't a home inspection. They're not going to look at, the electrical and the plumbing and things of this nature. They may do some measurements, take some photos, walk around the property. That's what they do. It's not a home inspection. Now, keep in mind, if you get a waiver, an appraisal waiver, this is something that you find out when the property goes through and the borrower goes through something called automated underwriting. And typically we see this with a large down payment, lots of reserves, high credit score. It could come back with no appraisals required. That's when you have an appraisal waiver. And this is when you'd find out. You don't find out before you go under contract. You find out at this specific part of the transaction. If you do have an appraisal waiver, happy days, you don't need to have an appraisal. If you don't have one, they're going to have to do an appraisal. Sometimes they could do a desk appraisal. They don't physically have to go to the property. Most of the time, they have to physically go to the property. And even if you have a waiver, if a storm has recently gone through the area, the appraiser would need to go do a disaster inspection where they just go to the property, make sure the roof is still there, the property's still there. But they sometimes have to do that, within a couple of weeks or a month or two after a storm, they would require this. So the appraisal's done. When the appraisal comes back, hopefully everything's fine. We're looking for value supported, and it's an as-is appraisal. It's not appraisal based upon certain repairs that need to be done. If that's the case, if the appraiser orders certain repairs to be done, you have to do them. You don't have a choice. If you don't do them, the loan is denied. So we're going to look for those two things on the appraisal. Now, just because the appraisal comes back and the loan officer could say, oh, everything's fine, you need to wait. The appraisal has to go to the underwriter. The underwriter has to sign off on the appraisal. And the reason I mention this is I've seen inexperienced loan officers say the appraisal's fine and it wasn't. They either missed something or didn't know how to read the appraisal. When it went back into the underwriter said, no, we need these repairs, or there's something going on with value, whatever it was. So you need to have the underwriters sign off on the appraisal. When they do that, everything is good. Now, you can run into issues where, one, obviously the property needs repairs. You have to do them. If you do them, they have to be done properly by a licensed and insured contractor. You can't go up on the roof with some tar and do it yourself. It needs to be done properly, and it needs to be put in writing what's going to be done, agreed upon by all parties. The other thing is the value. There's an issue with the value. There's ways to work around this. You can contest the value. Now, your agent will know how to do this. Well, actually, not all agents know how to do this, but it's a very specific thing that needs to be addressed. If there's an issue with a value on an appraisal, you need to contest the actual comp. So you need to bring in more comparable properties. If the appraiser says, I made an adjustment for a pool, and it was $20,000, and you disagree with that and think it should be $10,000, you're going to lose. You can't do that because that's an opinion. If you're actually going to contest a value on an appraisal, you need to bring in additional comparable properties that support the higher value. That's how you contest an appraisal. If you got a VA loan, they have actually a specific system in order to do this. But there are ways to work around if you do have an issue with the value. Sometimes this will go through and the appraiser will agree to increase the value, and sometimes they won't. If they don't, then you reach the next point in the transaction where the buyer and the seller have to come in agreement, where the seller may lower the price down to what the appraisal is, or the buyer will bring the difference, which is an appraisal gap. And that's largely dependent upon the type of market we're in. A buyer's market or a seller market would determine how that's handled, or they could meet someplace in the middle. But keep in mind, the lender is going to base the loan upon the sales price or the appraised value, the lower of the two. So if the property is being purchased for $510,000 and the appraisal comes back at $500,000, they're going to adjust everything to that $500,000, and there's $10,000 sitting out there. So you have to address that in some way. And like I said, that largely depends upon the type of market that we're in. So once the appraisal's done, everything's cleared, it's signed off by the underwriter. That's the second major hurdle. So pretty much after this point, it's downhill. The home inspection, that's a major hurdle. The appraisal, that's another major hurdle. But once you get past this major hurdle, things are looking good. Chances are you're probably going to close on this transaction. You have any questions, you need to buy or sell real estate, reach out to the number below. Don't leave a comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel.